Namandavts, 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 namandavts. Namandavts, namandavts.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to our hybrid virtual in-person service. My name's Tiffany, and I'd like to thank you for attending this morning's Dharma family service. We have John Mullins as our special guest speaker today. We'll begin service with a moment of quiet sitting. Reverend Kuwahara will strike the bell, and we will sit for 1 or 2 minutes to quiet our minds and prepare to hear the Dharma. Then he will strike the bell again, and we'll continue with the service.
Namandavts, namandavts. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, namandavts, 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 namandavts.
Okay, Reverend Kuwahara will now chant Shoshinge, which is on page 33 of the Purple Service Book.
So today we are going to chant the Shoshinge, which is a little bit longer than other regular sutra chantings. But I think, it's good to read some explanation starting from page 31. So page 31, you see a couple, paragraphs. So let me focus on a second paragraph, starting with the full title of this gatha. And the second paragraph says, the full title of this gatha, Shoshin Nembutsuge, means gather on the right or true faith in the Nembutsu, which is an English translation of the Japanese original word. And then the title consists of 3 terms. Shoshin literally means right faith, refers to Shinjin or faith. And then Nembutsu literally thinking of Buddha, refers to the practice of uttering Amida Buddha's name, Namo Amida Butsu. And then Ge or Gatha in Sanskrit means verse or hymn. So faith and Nembutsu are very important ideas constituting the central concept of Shin Buddhism, Jodo Shinshu Buddhism. Yeah. Konnichiwa. Welcome. And then, so this is the basic idea of what the Shoshin Nembutsuge is, or in short, we call it Shoshinge. Yeah. And then maybe, let me go to the next page, page 32. Mommy's here. Yeah. And then, so the second paragraph, starting with the whole Gatha, is an exposition of the Pure Land teaching, which may be divided into two parts. So this Gatha has two parts. The first part is the part based on the teaching of the sutras. And the second part is the teaching comes from based on the commentaries written by 7 masters, from whom Shinran Shonin received great doctrinal influences. So that's how, so this Gatha Shoshinge is a kind of summary of the teaching of Jodo Shinshu Buddhism. So that's why in our tradition, starting from the 15th century, this is a kind of our daily practice. Morning, evening, members recite this Shoshinge. And then now, today we have a John Sensei, John Mullins as a speaker, as a Tokudo ordination candidate, has to memorize whole, this Gatha chanting. Yeah.
If I cry, can I go out?
Yeah. And then, so usually Shoshinge, so let's jump to page 48. Page 48 is the last part of this Gatha Shoshinge. And then followed by Nembutsu, reciting Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. And then we have 6 hymns, Wasan Japanese hymns, poems. But today I'm going to skip that part. Yeah. And then let me jump to, after page 48, let me jump to page, say, 75. 75. So 6 Nembutsu recitation, and then 76 Ekoku, directing virtues. So there is certain designation of pitch. The first part of Shoshinge, basically D. The key pitch is D. From page 33 to page 30, page 30, 40, 44. 33 to 44, basic pitch is D. And then from page 45 to the end, 48, the pitch goes up to G. Yeah. So, don't worry. Nobody checks. Although I myself, I'm not so good at catching the right pitch, so I use cheating this, tuner. So you just follow me. Okay. And then I think it's nice you to join the sutra chanting with a loud voice. Yeah. But also, if you are shy, maybe you can follow this English translation at the bottom of each page. Yeah. Okay, let's enjoy this sutra chanting Shoshinge. I'm sure John will, chant the Shoshinge loud voice. No book for John. Hi. Namandavats, 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 namandavats.在世自在を仏性刀剣勝仏浄土院
国土人伝自然膜根流無常修正願長発形右大具勢五行死有意思小樹十世名所門実法不法無量無変更無下無体公園の少女歓喜知恵子不断難事無所故超日学校精進説一切群上無交渉本願名号少女語死心信行願に上等学書大涅槃必死滅度願成就如来所以公出世唯説弥陀本願会五辱悪事群上会お信如来如実言の発一年気愛心不断本の徳涅槃凡上逆法再永入如主死入海一味摂取信仰上昇後意の水波無明暗頓内心臓死運無上不真実信心天非如に古不運無運無資源妙無暗逆心謙虚大狂気即応超絶語悪種一切全幕本部に門心如来具勢が仏言古代小下者善人名踏んだりけみだ仏本願念仏邪見教満なく衆生信行十字人人難難中止難昔インド祭天使論下中華自治域史構想現代諸古聖書意妙如来本税大き釈迦如来両河線一種語名難天竺龍樹大自主等世質の財派有無権先絶大乗無情報召喚議事小安楽賢治南行六六信行異行指導楽億年弥陀仏本願次年即時入筆上唯の上昇如来語お大悲具勢音天神菩薩増論説奇妙無下公如来永主たら見真実 光線の頂戴誓願こういう本願力へこ移動群上昇一心記入苦毒大崩壊筆逆入大へ収集特使蓮華造世界即昇信尿保証人有本の人間人図入生寺音寺用下本師鈍乱両天使上皇乱消防殺来三蔵ルシ十条教凡上専業気楽法天神菩薩論中下報道因果見性願おげんねこゆたり少女死因唯心人枠前本部心人没承知生じ即涅槃必死無量光明道小衆上回復家同社結晶道難所有意明浄土活入南禅自力変言宗円満特語感染症三不三神経音言増末放滅道品一生増悪地偶税死安女外小妙化全道独名部所意公愛上三行逆悪公明明語見人念海入本願第一回行者少女今後心狂気知念相互用意大と逆三人即所保証市上楽原神公開一大教返帰安女間日祭先祖終身反戦人王家二度小弁流極重悪人有小物我薬剤非摂取中煩悩証言水不見大非無見上昇が本資源空妙仏教連民全幕本部に新宗教書後編集戦弱本願具悪性現来生じ臨伝下決知義上位少子即入弱上無意楽必知新人異能入愚教大事修士等上細無変極上悪道俗自主愚道心 過信し高嘘説 So please move to page 75. ナモアミダナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブがんにしくどく平等性祭道法菩提心往生安楽ナマンダーツナマンダーツナマンダーツナマンダーツナマンダーツナマンダーツナマンダーツナマンダー
I don't know about you guys, but that was hard with the mask on. Okay. Please rise if you're able to follow along with the Gatha Metta, which is on page 178 of the Purple Service Book. And then please remain standing for the Golden Chain 2. So 178. I will now recite the Golden Chain 2 on page 15 of the Purple Service Book. Please feel free to follow along. Okay. Here we go. Golden Chain 2. I'm a link in the Buddha's golden chain of love that stretches around the world. I must keep my link bright and strong. I will try to be kind and gentle to every living thing and protect all who are weaker than myself. I will try to think pure and beautiful thoughts, to say pure and beautiful words, and to do pure and beautiful deeds, knowing that on what I do now depends not only my happiness or unhappiness, but also that of others. May every link in the Buddha's golden chain of love become bright and strong, and may we all attain perfect peace. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Okay, we will now have the children's Dharma message by John Mullins. You may be seated.
I guess I should be closer to this, right? Okay. Is that it? Okay. All that for like, I have one slide after this. Anyway, good morning. It's so great to see everybody. Berkeley's always like a triple treat for me because I get to go see campus. I get to go to the Jodo Shinshu Center, and then I get to come here on Sunday and spend time with my Dharma friends. So it's always really special. And gosh, it's so funny because just sitting here and listening to Amiko's playing and singing metta with everyone, I was overcome, and I'm still a little bit overcome right now because it's just, it's a really wonderful opportunity. I miss it. I think if I say Natsukashi, is that correct? Okay. That's how I feel at this moment. So thank you so much for having me. It all kind of works out anyway because Sensei chose Shoshinge, which we've been practicing all weekend at the center, and that was wonderful. Metta was great, and we just did the Golden Chain, which was actually the topic of my children's Dharma talk today. So my question, let's see, who do we have here? Well, Sensei said we have three, is our Dharma school students over here. Has anyone outside of the Sangha ever asked you about Buddhism? Yes? Yes? What did you say? What was your short answer if you had one?
Teaching of life.
Teaching of life? Okay. Anyone over here? I see thinking. Anyone can answer. If anyone's ever asked you outside, well, what do you do here? What would you say, or what have you said?
It's a guide to life.
Guide to life? Okay. Yeah. I'm just curious, has anyone at school ever asked? Yeah? What did you say? We listen to the Dharma. Okay, I like that too. I'm asking these questions. I always find it interesting, when people ask what you would say. And over the years, I wanted to talk about the Golden Chain because that's something that's come back to me from a lot of members. People have come up to me at different sanghas and say, I think I remember this, I think I remember that, but I always remember the Golden Chain. It's very special to me, is what they say. And I agree, there is something special about it. Later, for the next message, I'm going to be talking about Renyo. And, Renyo was a fantastic communicator of Jodo Shinshu, who really brought that message out to people. So that's what I've been thinking about, over the years is our message and what do we say to others as we share the Nembutsu with them. And so here's the one slide. You'll recognize the words. But what I wanted to do is, if it's okay, just take a minute to go through line by line. Let's do the first two lines first. So if you want to say it with me, that'd be great. I am a link in the Buddha's golden chain of love that stretches around the world. I must keep my link bright and strong. So what would you say that means if you say, I'm a link in the Buddha's golden chain of love and I must keep my link bright and strong? What does that mean to you? Interdependence, right. I'm part of, it's not just about me, I'm part of something larger. And I have maybe a responsibility within that, to keep my link bright and strong. Let's do the next line. I will try to be kind and gentle to every living thing and protect all who are weaker than myself. So knowing that we're part of interdependence, that we're part of this golden chain, there is a sense of responsibility, and I think it's a huge one. And when you think about, I will try to be kind and gentle to every living thing and protect all who are weaker than myself, that's a huge job. And I don't know if it's something that we can really do. So I think that's why maybe it says, I will try, because it's something to think about, but it's such a huge job that so often for me, I can say is beyond me. But I think when you do think about being part of something larger, you do have a chance to think about how you can be kind and gentle to others as well. So this next one is the long one, and so let's go through this one too. I will try to think pure and beautiful thoughts, to say pure and beautiful words, and to do pure and beautiful deeds, knowing that what I do now depends not only on my happiness or unhappiness, but also that of others. So that's the long one. I always trip over that myself. But the first part of it, I think it's kind of similar to the line before, right? Thoughts, words, and deeds. It's kind of this thinking, what can I put out there? But the second part of it is really the one to think about for me, because it's not only what I do is about my happiness. It's not I do these things to make myself happier, better, but also what I'm doing, my actions also, affect other people. That's why we're part of this golden chain together. My actions affect others. And being aware of that behavior can also, impact others' happiness or unhappiness. So lastly, we'll end with the last line. May every link in the Buddha's golden chain of love become bright and strong, and may we all attain perfect peace. Namaste. So that we actually just sang, so that was part of the reason I was overcome. We did metta, and this was not planned. I walked into this program, so that's why it was so beautiful to me to think about. And I think if we were to review those lyrics, we would kind of find a similar message to the golden chain in that song Metta. So I thought it was a really good match. So I appreciate the causes and conditions that allowed that to happen today. And I hope it's okay that this is a bit short, but I'm going to go ahead and close with that. If you'll join me in Gasho. Namo Mita Boots. Namo Mita Boots. Namo Mita Boots. Namandavs. Namandavs.
Thank you, John, for your wonderful Dharma message for the students. Please rise if you're able to follow along with the Gatha, How Sweetly the Lotus Grows, which is on page 183 of the Purple Service Book. Namandaps. Okay, you may be seated. Now we would like to welcome the following new guests. We have a list here. Okay, please stand if you're able. We'd like to welcome you, Liana Brown. And Young Lee and Aaron Yang, son. Hey, son. Okay, now we'll read announcements. When I was a kid, Judy Kono used to do this, but now, now I have to do it.
She's watching you.
All right, the Asian Cultural Festival is today at 11, right after this. 11 to 6 at the Civic Center Park in downtown Berkeley. BBT is having a booth at the event, so the BBT Taiko group and G10 Daiko will be performing at 1:15. Don't miss it if you can. All right, number 2. BBT Dharma monthly online study session is on Thursday, April 27th, coming up at 6:30 p.m. You can sign up on the link on our website. So that's called the BBT Dharma. Okay, online meditation and discussion in May, Wednesday the 3rd at 7 p.m. The link is also on our website. And then the BBT Buddhist education classes, Sunday starting May 7th at 11 p.m. in the Hondo after service. Is it 11 a.m. maybe? 11 a.m. probably. The topic is Dharma messages. No registration required. Just come on in. 11:30 on May 7th is the next BBT Buddhist education class. Okay, Bazaar. Bazaar is here, coming May 21st. It's one day only, Sunday, 12 noon to 7 p.m. There will be food and free entertainment. Be sure to pre-order your barbecue steak dinners so they don't sell out before you get one. Let's see. So, or you can make a Satsuki Bazaar donation. Please see the weekly email or the temple website. You can get everything on that website. The link to the online silent auction will be coming soon, early May, and we're accepting our new or gently used donations of Japanese artwork, electronics, entertainment, sporting event tickets, gift certificates, kitchen appliances, services, lessons, or travel. Donations over $50 value are gratefully accepted. Okay. All right. Camping trip coming up July 27th to the 30th. It's Thursday to Sunday at the Manchester Beach KOA, along the Mendocino coast. It's great fun for kids and adults. Delicious food and fun activities. You want to contact Tina Iwasaki to sign up. Tina Iwasaki. The details are also included in the Padma and the weekly email. Okay, come to the camping trip, keep it alive. All right, now we have Tegan and Parker, Nagafuji. They're gonna come up and make an announcement.
Good morning. I'm Parker, and that's my sister Tegan. I'm a girl. We're both Girl Scouts of Troop 31585. And this is our last day, and we're going to be selling cookies in the back of the social hall after service. So if you're interested in buying them, or if you haven't this season, you should totally come by. So, do we take credit cards? Sure. Yeah, we do. And cash, anything. And Venmo, I think. Yeah, so thank you.
Okay. Now the students will be dismissed to their classes. Would the Dharma School students please go to the front, Oshoko, and then go to your classrooms. All others are invited to remain for the adult Dharma talk.
Sensei, for your message to Dharma School students. Sorry, I forgot to introduce you to the audience today. Most of the people here know John Mullins. He used to be a minister's assistant of the Berkeley Buddhist Temple. But now, 今ラスベガスよね。ラスベガス?
Yes.
ね。Which I didn't know. Now he's living in Las Vegas. I thought in Los Angeles, but he moved. And he's helping the Las Vegas Sangha right now. And then also now Tokudo ordination candidate. So that's why Thursday, Friday, Saturday, he had a training program at the Jodo Shinshu Center, the building next to us. And then, since he's here, why not? So let's invite John as a speaker, right? Yeah, so it's good to have John. Welcome back. ありがとうございます。Yeah.
Okay, he's coming back. We'll have the Dharma message by John. Come on up.
Good morning again. I think I've recovered now. And yes, thank you for mentioning that I moved recently, about 6 months ago, to Las Vegas, which I can talk to you all about another time. But it's great that there's a Sangha out there, and so I'm really happy to be there. And of course, you're always welcome to come to see the Las Vegas Raiders and the Las Vegas A's. I actually thought about this before. I thought, how could I lose the entire audience in the first minute of my talk? Keep your eye on the Warriors. That's all I have to say. Okay, good. Moving on. Let's see. So, although my kids' talk was one slide, my Dharma talk here is more. So, because what I wanted to do today, and I hope it's okay, is to actually talk to you a little bit about my thesis that I wrote when I was at IBS. And so my thesis was on Renyo. So that's what I'd like to talk about today. I will try not to get too in the weeds with things. What I really wanted to share is, some of the Dharma lessons I learned through studying Renyo over the year or two that I was preparing my thesis at IBS. So first off, who is Renyo? Do we know Renyo? Do we recognize Renyo's name? I know it's different here because, let's see, on the Onaijin, typically there might be a Shinran on one side, and Renyo is the person who sits on this side of the Naijin. Renyo was the 8th generation descendant of Shinran, so his great-great-great-great-great-grandson. Shinran founded Jodo Shinshu. Renyo is known as, I think he's called the restorer of Jodo Shinshu, but I don't know if that word really does it. I mean, he really brought Jodo Shinshu to the masses. I don't want to say single-handedly because there's a lot of help, but almost single-handedly expanded the presence of Jodo Shinshu. And so when I asked earlier in the message, what do you say to people? That, I think, is the question he thought about most deeply. How do I talk about Shinran's teaching to others in a way that will, touch them, will land in their heart? And one professor, Mark Blum, who's probably talked here before, he wrote, "No single person in Japanese religious history has ever had the kind of impact during his lifetime that Renyo had." So we're all here because of Shinran's teaching, but during his period, his lifetime, Renyo did so much. He standardized our Jodo Shinshu liturgy. So we chanted Shoshinge today earlier. That was brought together by Renyo. Shinran wrote the Shoshinge. Renyo made it part of our services and practices, along with other rituals and icons that he standardized. He expanded the organization that we now know as Honganji. And he just inspired so many people. He got out there, and as everyone said, he had this very charismatic presence. He was very humble, but very stern and strong in his message, of having gratitude for the Nembutsu teaching. And, in my view, I think in anyone's view, Shin wouldn't be what it is today without him. So, he may not be someone that comes to mind first for some of us, but I wanted to study him because so much of what we do at the temple today is because of Renyo. And so the question would be then, how did we get from Shinran to Renyo? And how was Renyo so effective at expanding Shin? And the other question I asked in my thesis was, what can we learn from that today? Because we wouldn't necessarily use the exact same way that he taught at that time and at that place, but if he was so good at it, like what can we pull from that? Like what can we learn and apply? And by the way, I didn't answer that question in my thesis. I kind of took too much time with all the other stuff, and so we'll just have to leave it as a question for all of us. But as I said, how did we get from Shinran to Renyo? And so if I could actually ask you to join me in Gassho as we reflect on these words of Shinran Shonin from the collected works. The Nembutsu for its practicers is not a practice or a good act. Since it is not performed out of one's own designs, it is not a practice. And since it is not done through one's own calculation, it is not a good act. Because it arises wholly from other power and is free of self-power, for the practicer, it is not a practice or a good act. Namo Mita Boots. Namo Mita Boots. Namo Mita Boots. Namandabs, namandabs, namandabs. Because we talk about this teaching as the Nembutsu teaching, but as it first developed and as Shinran learned about it from Honen, he really thought of the Nembutsu a different way than it had ever been thought of before. So historically, we just read this quote about the Nembutsu is not a practice, the Nembutsu is not a good act. But historically, the Nembutsu had been a practice. It was something that was said by people as a means of achieving enlightenment. We said the Nembutsu, if you said Namo Mita Butsu, it was, you wanted to get something out of it, is what historically it was understood to be. It was part of many different practices to, achieve liberation. And so what Shinran did is he developed an interpretation that just went totally beyond, the conventional understanding out there. So right earlier, what is Buddhism? What does it mean? That's the question I asked. Well, if you went out and asked, well, what's the Nembutsu? Oh, I chant the Nembutsu. That will help me, take refuge in Amida Buddha and get to the Pure Land. That might have been kind of the basic understanding. But Shinran went totally beyond that. And he wanted to think about what it really means to take refuge in a different way. And so he spent much of his life defending the Nembutsu as he understood it as the only practice needed for liberation. And yet he was also very assertive, just as in this quote that we read, that the Nembutsu is not a practice in that way. It's not a practice. And so if the Nembutsu is not a practice, my question, which I wrote in my thesis, was, what exactly are practicers of non-practice practicing? Right? Was it koan? I don't know. So what do we do? If the Nembutsu is not practice, how is it personally experienced and shared with others in this world? It's a very difficult question. I mean, it's something I probably personally shouldn't try to answer in a couple slides, but that was really the difficulty. If Shinran was trying to think of it differently, then how do we share and express the Nembutsu in our lives and with others? And so that's why I keep bringing up this idea of communicating what Buddhism means, because that's the challenge. Grasping the nuances of his thought it's not only, how do I understand it, but it's, how do I share it with others? How do we share it with others through the generations? And so we know that Shinran had this huge impact. We know that he shared the Nembutsu, throughout the countryside, and he came back and he wrote about it, and he gained this following. And yet we also know that his style was not easy to communicate. The reason that the Nembutsu is a non-practice was not easy to communicate to people. And so because of that, and because of the understanding that people had in the past of saying the Nembutsu to get something, there was just so many different responses. Sanghas were disconnected from each other. We didn't have the internet and other ways to just quickly communicate. So different temples might be doing different rituals, and different interpretations came up during Shinran's lifetime. People would write him letters asking, well, does the Nembutsu mean this? Does the Nembutsu mean that? And he would always write back and sort of say, no, you have it wrong, or I know, or this is my understanding. He would maybe be a little nicer, but there was just always these questions about it. And I think between Shinran and Renyo, you're looking at a couple hundred years. And so during that time, the teaching continued to exist, and there were sanghas that were building up around it, but there just wasn't that central way to communicate it. In between, Kakunyo is another figure, and I'll try not to get into it too much, but who did start to pull things together and created Honganji, compiled different icons and rituals, and started to say, no, we need to bring Jodo Shinshu together and have a common understanding of how we practice this non-practice of the Nembutsu, or what we do together. And but Kakunyo, unlike Renyo, as we understand, maybe he just didn't have the same communication ability. Maybe it was just a different time, causes, and conditions. So he kind of had this idea of pulling things together, which Renyo then took a lot from, but it was still like a long time until we got to Renyo. And so the teachings are out there. Renyo comes in, to the world. He was actually born, out of wedlock and raised in poverty, and faced many, many challenges through his life, was always on the run. The temple that he inherited was destroyed. And there was so much going on in Japan beyond that during that time that it was a very difficult time for everybody. But for him to be in this place, it was a challenge for him, but it also seemed to be like society was changing in a way that he took advantage of. He saw the world changing, and he said, this is how I can bring the Nembutsu into this world and share it with others. And he was so great at doing that it just grew and grew and grew. And I was I was talking about Renyo to Las Vegas, and they said it was like he was a rock star. He just got out there and he was able to, share the Dharma through his personal communication, but also through his letters. And his letters were very effective at communicating with others, and that allowed our teaching to kind of come together and standardize so that people could understand it in a way where we could share it with each other. And so that was like a really long lead-in. But basically, where I wanted to break it down were what I call Renyo's three treasures. And so what were these three things that were so important to him to communicate that helped bring us together as a Sangha, or as a larger Sangha, and that still exists today? And so one of the things that he did was to look at the central object of reverence, which we know as Amida Buddha. We have our statue here. It could also be an image of Amida Buddha. But what Renyo did is he looked at the Nembutsu as these 6 characters, and he was very rigorous about spreading this 6-character Nembutsu to everyone. But what he also did was he shared within his Dharma messages a way for people to understand the Nembutsu. And so, he talked about the way that the characters worked. He talked about, Namo as this idea of taking refuge, and Amida Buddha. And, he took this from other, history and other teaching, but he put it together in a way that I think was so effective, because he showed people that you didn't say the Nembutsu, that you are part of the Nembutsu, that you are part of this activity of the Buddha. And so, he was just really good at sharing that message and having people study the characters to understand where they are within it, so that it's not something that you just reach out and kind of grab, but that you understand that the Buddha is there for you. And by looking at those characters in a concrete way, like we're looking at them now and talking to people, well, this is how you understand it, he really helped them understand it, and he helped them feel like they were a part of it, that they were a part of the Buddha Dharma, and that they were a part of the Buddha's activity. And so through that, you could say Namo Amida Butsu and start to think of it that different way. You could start to think, I'm a part of it. I'm with the Buddha. I think in here, I'm sorry, there's an idea of oneness with Buddha, which we have to be really careful about, because it's what I think it means, at least for me, is that we are part of the Buddha's, sorry, we are part of what the Buddha is trying to do to help us. And if we recognize that, then we kind of become one in understanding of who we are, what Buddha is, and we can just bring that together. And I wish I could express it more beautifully than he did, but he did in letter after letter kind of share this message and kind of bring people together around the Nembutsu in a way that they could see and kind of touch and feel, by seeing the characters here. What he also did was so along with the Buddha, I think he was able to share the Dharma through Shinran and through his appreciation of Shinran in a way that really, really helped people. And, he was able to share his emotional connection to Shinran. He was able to put Shinran in front of everyone as a teacher that brought the Dharma to us, and use Shinran as like this concrete touch point. So if the Nembutsu was, we're thinking about Amida, we're thinking about, Namo Amida Butsu, Shinran was this person who, lived and breathed and struggled with the teachings and shared the Nembutsu teachings with us. And so, Renyo feels like we're all part of this tradition together. And what I feel is that he said, the followers of Jodo Shinshu are part of Shinran's tradition. And so we look to Shinran's teachings, we learn from Shinran's teachings, and we learn about ourselves through those teachings. And so he really centered Shinran, but also asked us to kind of face Shinran in a way. And he had this statue, people came to visit and think about ourselves and him and kind of connect with him in that way. And so, Shinran and the services that went around him and the memorial services became a really central part of what we did too, because it was an opportunity to really focus on what Shinran taught and how he taught us. And I think that allowed us to focus on the teachings themselves. So that's where I think he helped with the Dharma. And lastly, he helped us with the Sangha. For Renyo, possibly the best way to maintain a relationship with the Buddha Dharma is through Dharma friendships. And, he developed a way of talking about the Dharma, so first you're thinking about it kind of on your own through the Nembutsu, then you might be coming to these large gatherings and paying respects to Shinran and learning about the teachings through those gatherings. But lastly, he wanted you to talk to each other. And he wanted all of us to talk to each other through Sangha, through community, and to speak openly. And I just think that's something that's really crucial in what he did, which is to ask people to speak openly and not be afraid to share if they don't understand something or what their doubts might be, to speak out how you feel about the teachings, what you don't understand. That was something he strongly encouraged people to do. So he'd say, say something. If you don't say anything, it's not good. You're holding it in. And I think if we're honest with ourselves, when we hear different teachings, when we hear different things, we might feel a certain way. We might feel like, I don't understand that, or I just don't agree with that. And so for Renyo to say, get in that room, speak together, talk about it, that's the way that we can learn, is from each other. So we're learning from Buddha, we're learning from Shinran, but we also need to be together and talking together and learning together with each other. And so that just brought the people together in a way that made them feel, I think, empowered, empowered by the Dharma. Not I go to the temple and pay my respects and then I go home, but actually I'm part of this, I'm part of the Buddha's activity, I'm part of what Shinran's doing, and I'm going to go and talk to people about it and be open about my doubts and my fears and, or my loves, my joys, and see what other people think and what other people say. So that's when I, from the very beginning, I say, how do you communicate Buddhism to each other? it's at that moment where you talk to each other about it and you maybe hear something. Well, this might be my interpretation, or I think of something this way, and that's our chance to learn as well. So we're not just kind of keeping it all inside. And so, by bringing all of that together, I feel like Renyo delivered this beautiful vision of what the three treasures could mean within Jodo Shinshu. He wasn't afraid to go to a society that understood the Nembutsu differently and say, this is my affirmative vision of what Shin Buddhism is, and how we can discover, ourselves within it, in relationship with the Buddha, with Shinran, and our fellow followers. So practice, in my opinion, for Renyo is just never missing that opportunity to engage in these relationships with each other. And these relationships are not only based on a ritual or certain traditions, but that emotional depth of our encounter with the Buddha Dharma that Renyo calls to the surface. He wanted people through all of these activities to come into relationship with each other, with Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, but to have that encounter, to have that moment where you can engage the teachings and experience something emotional and real together. And so that's my way of saying, of thinking about Renyo at least. And anyway, I'm going to go ahead and close at this point with something that another quote of his from his letters, and I hope you'll join me in Gasho there. Okay, thank you. Although it is now difficult to encounter the one way of the primal vow, we are on rare occasions able to meet the supreme primal vow. This is indeed the joy of all joys. What could compare with it? Namo Mita Boots. Namo Mita Boots. Namo Mita Boots. Naman Davs, Naman Davs. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, John, for that Dharma talk. All right, we have a couple of thank yous. Thank you. I'm doing the first sensei. Okay.
Yeah, it's hard to thank to yourself. Okay, thank you, John. ありがとうございました for your very informative Dharma message. Yeah, so now you can tell how much he learned at the IBS, right? No. ありがとう. Thank you, John. And then I also thank Tiffany for being a wonderful chairperson today. Yeah. So we have many open spots for chairperson. Yeah, we welcome you to another round, being a chairperson. And then thank you, Bradley, and then Myron, David, Berman, Romeo for your helping during today's live streaming service. ありがとうございます. And then thank you, Tony and Ryan, for monitoring the chat room on our YouTube channel. ありがとうございます. And then thank you, Emiko-san, for playing the piano for the beautiful music today. ありがとうございました. And then thank you, April Toban, monthly group, for preparing a refreshment. ありがとうございます. Thank you very much. And then thank you, Dharma School teachers, for giving Dharma lessons to our Dharma School students. ありがとうございます. Thank you. So I think, and then of course, thank you everyone for being here, and then people watching, attending the service virtually. Yes, thank you very much for attending today's service. So I hope we will see you next week too. ありがとうございました。はい。何万打仏、何万打仏、何万打仏、何万打仏。